So there are two main things that come to mind when you hear menopause. One is hot flashes, the other is mood fluctuations. And I think the thing that concerns women the most that come to see me are actually the mood fluctuations. They talk more about the hot flashes, but when they get in the office, I hear, I feel like I'm going crazy. And they just want to know that they're not going crazy. And they're not. I haven't met one yet that's going crazy. But things are shifting because the thing about menopause is that we head into a different direction in our life. We're heading into a different season of our life. That's why it's called the change of life. And above all else, women need to be kind to themselves in this transition with their moods and with how they're feeling, because our patience level is going to be less than it used to be. My aunt said once, when you hit menopause, you grow balls. I said, okay, noted. And I think that's a fairly good description, but many of us, we're kind people. We're used to being the givers and the providers and the person who's always there taking care of everybody else. But then when we hit menopause, the physiology of the body becomes more demanding on us. And therefore our nervous system becomes more demanding, and therefore our personality can shift a little bit. Maybe we can think about it as going, okay, since I'm heading into a different season of my life, how do I need to shift? What am I losing? What am I gaining? What am I gaining? And where are the lines in the sand that I'm going to draw for myself so that I can age well? And so that the people around me can be maybe a little more empowered instead of called and cared for. Maybe that's just a natural part of that phase of life. I don't know. It's just something to think about, because that's a conversation that a lot of women are having with each other these days, is that. So hot flashes. Okay. Definitely the estrogen depletion is going to come into play here. And especially at first, estrogen is going to be depleted first before progesterone gets depleted. That's a cause for a lot of the symptoms. So it's nice when we can kind of buffer those two so that estrogen declines, progesterone declines, and they kind of decline together instead of a spurting and a up and down. We can only control that so much. That's a natural part of the progress, but there's other things that we can do. For example, optimizing liver function is a great big huge one, because actually the liver has a big part to play in something called conversion of our estrogen and our progesterone. And if that's working really well, symptoms can be mitigated. So that's something that a lot of the patients in the naturopathic world tend to focus on. But there's also things like coffee. And I hate to say it, but coffee is one of the big contributors to hot flashes as we go through the change of life. And it's not necessarily the caffeine in it either. I think it's the herbal medicine that's in coffee. Remember that coffee and tea are both herbal medicines, just like holy basil and St. John's wort and whatever else we take. It's our herbs that we use medicinally. So if in that particular phase of life, I find that coffee as an herb doesn't particularly agree as well as other things. So keep an eye on that. Even if it's decaf, if you're finding that coffee is causing you hot flashes, then it's causing you hot flashes. It's your choice. You can still drink your coffee. Nothing wrong with still drinking your coffee. Just know that there's a correlation there. And if you find it, you find it. Now you're empowered. Now you have information. And now you can make a choice. Sugary foods. So like not fruits, but really high sugar foods and high starch foods, like loads of like pasta dinners, I'm finding are causing my patients issues when they're going through the change of life, the peri-menopause and the pre-menopause. Big meals, lots of carbs, lots of starches. So maybe check out the video I did on blood sugar and menus, restaurant menus, and food choices where hidden sugar might be and hidden starches might be that could be causing problems that never would be a problem before, but now in this phase, this season, it's causing a problem until the hot flashes settle down. Another thing that can cause hot flashes actually is a pent-up nervous system, a state of overwhelm. So I'm finding that the women coming in, they're talking about that busy, crowded environments are actually contributing to hot flashes. So, zares at certain times of the day and, those types of things, flashy lights, crowds, people and their vibiness, that tends to come into play in possibly aggravating a hot flash that might be on its way, making it a little bigger than it maybe would have been or needed to be before. So stress levels. Or, doing your best to keep your mouth shut when you really don't want to. Sometimes it's best to keep your mouth shut. But I have seen stress levels and frustration levels be an issue as well. So just an FYI. So what else? What else is there about menopause? There's vaginal dryness. Estrogen suppositories are a common conventional treatment. They are effective. There's no denying that. If you want questions, if you want to have a discussion about using that, the pros and cons, risk versus benefit, we can do that in the office. I can give you the information. Vaginal yeast overgrowth tends to be more of an issue when the vaginal tissue tends to change. With the changing estrogen and progesterone comes dryness, comes different tissues, it comes more susceptibility to yeast infections, which is candida. And so we can talk about that as well if you want to, if you suspect that to be an issue. Weight and blood cholesterol do become more difficult to manage, and we know it's a fact. Cholesterol levels naturally rise in a woman as she hits menopause and above. Weight as well, and when you think about it, I don't know if this is the thing or not, and I can't take credit for this theory. This is a friend of mine who's an awesome naturopath up north, and she said to me, you know what? We lose our estrogen, which means our bone density is naturally going to be less protected because estrogen is a protector of the bones. So wouldn't it make sense for a really intelligent body to put a little extra fatty tissue on certain bones at certain areas where we tend to fall, so that when we fall, we don't break something? Wouldn't that be really smart of the body to put a little bit of extra fatty tissue there to buffer those bones that aren't as well protected by estrogen? And I thought, wow, that's brilliant. It is what it is. Can we lose weight as we head into menopause? Yeah. It depends on the person and it depends on their body size, depending on what their body needs at the time. If their body is in a state of excess, fine. If we get a little puffier, we get a little puffier. Some of us do, most of us do, some of us don't. But if you want to talk about weight management, definitely when it comes to blood sugar and cholesterol levels and blood pressure, absolutely, that's a smart thing to do with your naturopath and your medical doctor and your nurse practitioner. Another thing you can ask your healthcare providers about is your thyroid function, because there's been a correlation between pre and post menopause and hypothyroidism. Thyroid dysfunction is a little bit, it's almost like we're more at risk of thyroid dysfunction as we go through the change of life than before. At least that's what it's showing in some epidemiological type literature. Food sensitivities can become a problem. Food sensitivities have developed, I've seen food sensitivities develop at any age. There's certain key times that they do develop. One's in our sort of mid-40s, and so if we're getting early menopause in our 50s and we haven't found a food sensitivity because it's just new, that can really become part of a hot, flashy, brain foggy, moody, not feeling well kind of issue. So food sensitivities are something I tend to talk about a lot. I do. They're common. They're more common than I'd like to admit. Food sensitivities. Okay. Speaking of mental clarity, memory and mental clarity issues, that's common. So if you're experiencing that, you're not the only one. There's a greater need for certain nutrients at this change, for sure, just because we're going through a flux, right? We do change of season soup between spring and between fall and winter, and between summer and fall, and maybe we want to do change of season nutrients at certain times of the life cycle as well. Hard to know, but it's something that you can be talking about and asking questions about. That's what I love about these videos, is these videos, they're meant to get you wanting to ask questions and knowing which questions to ask for your healthcare providers. And if your healthcare provider is me, awesome. Breast tissue. Yes, it's important to monitor breast tissue. Absolutely it is. Yes, give your breasts a break from your underwire bra, right? If you want to talk about deodorant, we'll talk about deodorant, absolutely. Optimal lymphatic flow, the lymphatic system. Those are lymph nodes, right? The lymph nodes in and around here. We know about the lymph nodes here, but there's tons of them. There's lymph nodes here, along here. There's a ton of them around here, both sides. And the underwire bra, tight bras, tight clothes, they can, the lymph has to have room to flow, just like a river in a stream, right? Just like a straw, like if there's water in a hose and we pinch it off, then the hose isn't going to flow as well, right? Same thing. So there's something called cupping that some women choose to do. It's a great, very relaxing, love it. And we actually do cupping therapy around here to enhance lymphatic flow and maybe get some of that stuff, some junk cleaned out, and just kind of make sure it's nice and clean and things are flowing really well. Endocrine disruptors. Those are chemicals that you may or may not have heard about. Things like bromides, which would be in your exhaust fumes, your pesticides, which might be on your food, your pesticide residues, your salon products, a lot of bromides. Chlorines, so like your drinking water, your swimming pool. Excess fluorides. A little bit of fluoride's good, but it's easy to get too much, especially when we're swallowing it. There is a correlation between fluoride and bones if we're swallowing it. Heated plastics. There's some literature out there. It's still conflicting, but it's out there. Soy protein isolate. Again, it's definitely a conversation to be had. So just start asking questions. Everybody has different needs. Everybody has different priorities. So detox, yeah, right? Detox. We talked about the liver in the beginning with the hot flashes. We just talked about endocrine disruptors, which is not just a liver detox. There's lots of other different ways to do that. There's minerals involved. There's all, did you know that certain B vitamins are needed for proper detoxification? And certain minerals, certain essential minerals that tend to be a little bit low in our food supply these days, these decades. Things like that all come into play. Careful with detoxes, because sometimes when you do like let's say for example milk thistle, such a popular detox, but I've seen a lot of milk thistle cause a lot of hot flashes because it's just it may not be the exact herb. Remember, herbal medicine, we need the right herb for the right person in their in the way their genetic makeup is, or the way their constitution is, the way they're put together, right, the way they're wired. So maybe not jumping right into things like that. Maybe there's a slower, more gentler way. So if you're getting more hot flashes when you're doing something that you think is healthy, maybe talk to your naturopath. Maybe it's just not right for you. Maybe it is. Who knows? Ask questions. Protecting the bones. It's more than just taking calcium, and be careful with calcium. Yes, there's such a thing as taking too much calcium. Absolutely there is. Absolutely. So it's about the right kind of minerals, the right combination of minerals, and the right dose of minerals for you. But it's also about pH balance, which is a funny topic to talk about. I'm not going to get into it in this video, but it's something that can be discussed. pH balance for the bones as a buffer in the blood. Calcium being a buffer in the blood. And maybe go look into that. Calcium's a buffer in the blood. What does that mean exactly? What exactly does that mean? And I can explain it if you're in the office with me, or you can go and look it up. Prolapse. So if we had kids, we're going to be more susceptible to that. As we age, doesn't necessarily go along with menopause per se, but it does go along with aging. Prolapse. So that could be prolapse of any organ. There's 3 of them in there that could fall through. And that's uncomfortable. And it can cause incontinence, right? A little bit of pee coming out. There are exercises that can be done. There are things beyond Kegels that can be done about that. And that's something that I work with some of my patients with, is pelvic floor strengthening to prevent prolapse or to help to treat prolapse. It's an adjunct therapy for treatment, and it's great for prevention, so we can talk about that as well. So go ask questions, go learn about this stuff. Don't feel disempowered by this beautiful phase of life. Go be empowered by it and really take a good hard look at, okay, yep, I know what I'm losing. That's acutely clear. What am I gaining? Take care of yourselves.